So I listened to this soundbite 3 different times because I wanted to see if he was being humbled by this past season or if he was just answering a reporter's question. Do you think, though, Nick, that Baker is still the right guy to turn this Browns franchise around?
I think he's the right quarterback for the team in the short term and the long term, but I think there are some obvious major adjustments that need to be made. But first of all, I just want to say this. I don't believe Baker's coming. I don't believe he didn't think it was going to be easy. It's always been easy for Baker. He walks on to Texas Tech. It's supposed to be the hardest path possible, become a starting anything, much less quarterback, as a walk-on, and he's excellent. Good enough to where he can walk on at an even bigger time school in Oklahoma, and in back-to-back years sets the all-time single-season efficiency record for any quarterback in college football history. And then he goes to the NFL, and a few weeks into his career, once he is named the starter, he kind of hits his groove and he sets the rookie touchdown passing record. It's always been easier than it should have been for Baker because of his talent, because of his drive, because of work ethic. It's not like things were handed to him. He's earned it. So I don't believe that Baker thought this year was going to be different. Why would he think it would be different than every other step of his football career? So I do think there has been some humbling, whether he wanted it or not. Now, to more directly answer your question, Jenna, I think he's the right quarterback to turn the Browns franchise around, to help them get on the track it looked like they were on after last year. But I think he is absolutely not the right person to be the emotional leader of your franchise. They need a big adult with a big personality, a real adult with a big personality, pardon me, in that room to be the emotional center. And honestly, to be the true face of the franchise, which is why some of these unproven college head coaches is not the way I would go for the Browns, because he is not yet, I believe, emotionally mature enough to be starting NFL quarterback. I think he is talented enough to be starting NFL quarterback, but he can't be the person that turns around the locker room. He has to just be the person that gives you high-quality quarterback play, and that is the entirety of his job description until he grows into the rest of the job.
Wow, that's interesting. First of all, let me say this. I agree with you in that I think he can be the quarterback there, and they can be successful. I don't like saying he's the guy to turn the franchise around because, quite honestly, I have more faith in OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt than I do in Baker. But I do think with that, I mean, think of what I just named.
Yep.
That with that type of arsenal around him, I think he's a good enough quarterback where they can be a really successful team. But what you said is interesting because when you think about the teams that are really the most successful, especially the ones that are successful every year, New England, now Belichick obviously is a strong presence as the coach, but Brady kind of sets the emotional tone of that team, right? Seattle, Russell Wilson, same thing. You know, Aaron Rodgers, he's had his issues there,
but it's
still
his team,
right?
For sure.
New Orleans, you're right.
Yeah, Drew Brees. Like, I don't know what team where the quarterback isn't that guy where they're successful year after year after year. Now, Cam is a guy that maybe little like Baker, up and down, you know, kind of a strange kind of leader at times. And that team has been up and down like that as well.
But don't you think that typically young quarterbacks grow into that? Like, Patrick Mahomes is the star of the Chiefs, but the voice of the Chiefs is Andy Reid. The only reason Patrick Mahomes became the face of it is because he was so sensational immediately. Russell Wilson became the voice of Seattle, but early on, he had some pushback, and it was Pete Carroll and a kind of that Legion of Boom leadership. And while Drew Brees at this point is a partner with Sean Payton, early on, this was a Sean Payton operation that Drew Brees was a godsend for, and certainly Belichick set the tone early for New England before Brady matured into it. So I think for young quarterbacks, typically, they do need, the most successful ones that we've seen, a strong, established head coach to help shepherd them along the way, so to speak.
Well, I think Mahomes and Wilson, you saw the character, not that Baker doesn't have character, I'm not saying that,
sure,
but you saw character traits in them that screamed leader.
Yep.
You know, the work ethic and just the way they handled themselves, their sound bites and things like that. Now, we haven't seen many like Baker. I mean, obviously you had Jim McMahon with Chicago, but that was 1 year, really, where they won the Super Bowl. We haven't seen many quarterbacks lead this way. I'm not saying it can't be done. This is a different day and age. But I thought that was just very interesting because if he can't be that emotional leader, now maybe he will grow into it. And that's one of my main points and why I want to give Baker the chance and not throw him out and say he can't get it done because he's had a second bad year. They need a better coaching staff. You know, Freddie Kitchens obviously has had trouble calling the plays. You talked about it earlier in the week against Baltimore, just at the end of the first half, how it was madness. And their red zone play calling has been horrible. So with a better coaching staff, I don't know if they keep Todd Monken or not, but he really hasn't, the offensive coordinator, hasn't gotten a chance to call the plays this year. I think he would be doing things a lot differently. But whatever they do, I'm sure Freddie Kitchens won't be there. They bring in a better coaching staff. I think that will help Baker. And for all his bad stats this year, he is 20th in QBR, which isn't great. But we know QBR takes into context everything. His QBR is still higher than Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, and Josh Allen.
Well, the Goff thing's interesting because who is the voice and the face of the Rams? The coach. I would say the voice and face of the Niners is the coach. Like, hell, it's the defensive coach as well. We see him on the sidelines all fired up all the time. Like, I think for some of these young quarterbacks, it doesn't mean that it won't one day where they have full reign over everything. But early on, if you've got, I just do wonder, so much of this is circumstantial, if Baker had a Sean McVay type in his life or even a more established guy, how different it would have been than going from Hugh Jackson to interim coach Greg Williams to Freddie Kitchens.
And then the other thing with Baker is you love who he is. It's what made him. It's what got him here. And then you want to say, okay, you need to change that to be whoever we think the quarterback should be. And then you got to play with those two sides. All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.